Welcome to this explainer. Today we're tackling a massive project sitting on so many to-do lists across the UK right now, garage demolition. We're going to strip away the guesswork and hand you the exact, highly practical framework you need to understand the costs, the rules, and the professional guidance required to get this job done right. So, are you planning to tear down an old, crumbling, or maybe severely damaged garage that's just eating up space? Well, you're in exactly the right place. We're not doing hypotheticals today. We're getting straight into highly actionable takeaways so you can tackle this project with total confidence. Okay, let's dive into the roadmap. First, we'll cover the cost of demolition. Second, rules and planning permission. Third, the real risks of DIY. And finally, professional demolition solutions. Section 1, the cost of demolition. Let's start with the immediate baseline financial question every homeowner has before the first sledgehammer even swings. Right off the bat, for a small or single garage here in the UK, you're looking at a cost somewhere between £2,000 and £5,000. Now, I want to anchor you to this specific price range, but with a critical caveat. This is just your baseline. If you're dealing with a larger structure or a garage with a much more complex build, expect that baseline number to creep up. Because honestly, it's never just about knocking down a few walls, right? Your final quote is driven by all these hidden variables. You've got labor, the pure logistics of skip hire, waste disposal, permits, and site clearance. Plus, think about this. Can a demolition crew even fit heavy equipment into your backyard? And then there's the absolute elephant in the room, asbestos. If hazardous materials are present, the whole cost dynamic shifts completely. Section 2, rules and planning permission. Moving on from the budget, we need to talk about the strict legal realities of taking down a structure on your property. So the really good news here is that in most cases, you don't actually need full planning permission to tear down a garage. But, and this is a big but, you absolutely have to watch out for the exceptions. If your property is a listed building, if you live in a designated conservation area, or if your garage actually shares a wall with your neighbor, yeah, you're stepping into exception territory. In those specific situations, you can't just tear it down. You've got to navigate the proper legal channels first. Section 3, the risks of DIY. All right, we've covered the costs and the red tape. Now let's crank up the stakes and look at the physical dangers. Look, we've all been there. You stare at that initial $2,000 to $5,000 estimate and think, hey, I could just rent a skip and knock this out over a long weekend. But while DIY demolition might seem like a money saver on paper, it brings some serious hidden risks to the table. Trying to save that upfront cash, it could end up costing you so much more in unexpected structural damage, legal liabilities, or really severe health consequences. You're really facing 3 very specific, practical hazards if you go the DIY route. First up, structural instability. Garages can totally collapse unpredictably if they aren't taken apart the right way. Second, and this is the scary one, asbestos exposure. A lot of older garages have it, and if you disturb it without the right professional training and gear, it is incredibly bad for your respiratory health. And third, strict disposal rules. You literally can't just chuck commercial demolition waste into a standard bin. These 3 factors demand careful handling that goes way beyond just swinging a sledgehammer at some brick and mortar. Section 4, professional demolition solutions. So, to avoid falling into those physical and financial traps, let's look at the professional standard required for this kind of work. When you bring in a professional team, like Howard Stott Demolition, for example, they step in to provide services that are safe, entirely compliant with all the rules, and super efficient. It essentially boils down to 3 meticulous steps. Step 1 is proper planning, which guarantees the structure comes down safely and legally. Step 2 is waste management, completely taking away the headache of those strict disposal rules and any hazardous materials. And step 3 is site clearance, leaving you with a literal clean slate instead of a dangerous pile of rubble. If you're ready to move forward, professional companies offer tailored quotes to fit the exact quirks of your unique property. And that brings us to our final thought for this explainer. You now know the baseline costs, you understand the bureaucratic exceptions to watch out for, and you're well aware of the big hazards like structural collapse and asbestos. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Considering the hidden costs, the red tape, and the very real health risks, is removing that old garage actually worth the DIY risk? Or is this the exact moment to call in the professionals? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.